1983 World Series is brought to you by Miller High Life, the best beer for the best time of the day. Welcome to Miller Time. And by Chevrolet, official U.S. cars and trucks of the 14th Olympic Winter Games. Chevrolet and you taking charge. And by the Texas Instruments home computer, creating useful products and services for you. And by Delta Airlines, 35,000 professionals serving more than 90 cities in the U.S. and abroad. Delta is ready when you are.
We had a rainy morning and a rainy afternoon, but a dry evening thus far in Baltimore. In fact, it's warmed up, temperature in the 70s as we get set for game number 2. Hello again, everyone. I'm Al Michaels, and of course, so much this year has been made of the Baltimore Orioles platoon system. But tonight, you'll see basically the same lineup. Only Dan Ford will be a switch. He'll replace Dwyer in right field, and that's because they're facing a pitcher, a right-hander, as they did last night. Where you'll see the platooning is with the Philadelphia Phillies. It's interesting, and Gary Maddox touched on it during the pregame show. The Phillies are a veteran team. Tonight, only 2 fellas in the starting lineup are under the age of 30. But when Paul Owens replaced Pat Corrales on the 18th of July, when he came down from the front office, he knew that something had to be done. That something is platooning. Some of the players don't like to call it platooning. They euphemistically refer to it as playing the hot hand, and that's what they'll do tonight. In fact, in center field tonight will be Greg Gross. In right field will be Joe LaFay. And last night's hero, Gary Maddox, is back on the bench. Also, another thing to keep in mind as you watch the Phillies, could this be the last hurrah for some? There's some talk about Pete Rose, whether or not Philadelphia will pick up their option to retain Rose. Also, some speculation he may end his career in Cincinnati. We don't know. Will Joe Morgan retire? Will Gary Maddox insist on a trade? Will Gary Matthews want out? Who knows? But it's a veteran team, and right now they're only 3 games away from a world championship as we get set for game 2. I know one thing, Howard, when you talk about pressure tonight, it's on the Orioles because no team has ever lost the first 2 games of a series in their home park and come back to win.
Well, Mike Schmidt certainly knows that. At lunch today, he said, now I believe it. We're a team of destiny. But I also agree with Reggie. 7 games is a long series, and the Birds can't be written off yet. All right. Well, I talk about the Birds of Baltimore. I want to talk again with our colleague Earl Weaver, who knows more about the Birds than any man alive, quite probably. And item number 1, why is Joe Altobelli, in your opinion, starting Dan Ford instead of Jim Dwyer when Jim had such a hot hand with the bat last night?
Well, Joe Altobelli has played Dan Ford a lot in right field. In fact, Joe did a lot less platooning in right field than he did in center field and he did in left field. Dan Ford has started 61 times against right-handed pitching during the course of the season. Jimmy Dwyer only started 36, and a lot of those were when Dan Ford was injured. Dan is a good ball player. He gives them extra speed. He gives them a little extra defense in the outfield. What the Orioles missed last night, I think, was a little production from the bottom of their order. And we talked about the designated hitter last night, how they're not allowed to use it during the 1983 World Series. And they definitely missed Kenny Singleton in the 6th spot.
Now, about Vodka. This is a critical game, no question about it, for the Birds. You expect him to excel as he did against the White Sox?
Well, he certainly handled the White Sox, and last year he pitched 7 times for the Baltimore Orioles in relief. He was in a pressure ball game during the New York Yankees series. He won that particular ball game for us, and he showed an awful lot of heart in a Seattle ball game where he carried our ball club. He's a real good pitcher, Howard.
Thank you very much, Earl. And now let's go down to Rex Barney, the one-time Brooklyn Dodger great, and the public address system.
Your attention, please. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to meet the participants in the 1983 World Series. The National League champions, Philadelphia.
The manager of the Phillies, Paul Owens. Now the starting lineup. Leading off, the second baseman, number 8, Joe Morgan. Batting second, the first baseman, number 14, Pete Rose. Hitting third, the third baseman, number 20, Mike Schmidt. Batting fourth, the right fielder, number 23, Joe LaFay. Hitting fifth, the left fielder, number 34, Gary Matthews. Batting sixth, the center fielder, number 21, Greg Gross. Hitting seventh, the catcher, number 6, Bo Diaz. Batting eighth, the shortstop, number 11, Ivan De Jesus. In ninth position, now in the bullpen warming up, the pitcher, number 49, Charles Hudson. And now here are the coaches and non-starting players from Philadelphia. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the American League champion, Baltimore Orioles. Here is the manager of the Orioles, Joe Altobelli. Now the starting lineup. Leading off, the center fielder, number 1, Al Bumbry. Batting second, the right fielder, number 15, Dan Ford. Hitting third, the shortstop, number 8, Cal Ripken Jr. Batting fourth, the first baseman, number 33, Eddie Murray. Hitting fifth, the left fielder, number 38, John Lowenstein. Batting sixth, the second baseman, number 25, Rich Dower. Hitting seventh, the third baseman, number 10, Todd Cruz. Batting eighth, the catcher, number 24, Rick Dempsey. In the ninth position, now in the bullpen warming up, the pitcher, number 52, Mike Boddicker. And now, here are the coaches and non-starting players from Baltimore. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise as we honor America with our national anthem, which tonight will be a repeat performance of sorts by the man who also sang the anthem this summer when Baltimore favorite Brooks Robinson was inducted into the Hall of Fame. Here is Baltimore's own Melvin Lowry.
By the dawn's early light. so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave through the night that our flag was still there. Made us that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of
Pre-game pageantry is over, and we're ready to watch two rookies go to the mound. Boddicker and Hudson in Game 2 of the 1983 World Series.
On behalf of the American League, I'd like to introduce Tom Stout of Chevrolet, who presents the Championship Series Most Valuable Player Award to Mike Boddicker of the Baltimore Orioles.
Mike Boddicker had a sensational rookie season climaxed by a record-tying 14 strikeouts in the second game of the American League playoffs, earning for himself selection as Chevrolet's most valuable player of the playoffs. Mike, it's a great privilege to present to you the keys to this new Blazer for that accomplishment. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Stout. I'd like to thank you, the American League, and Chevrolet for this honor.
The preceding message was furnished by Major League Baseball.
Attention, please. Ladies and gentlemen, we direct your attention to the home plate side of the Baltimore dugout, where tonight's ceremonial first pitches will be thrown out by two men who helped lead the Orioles to world championships in 1966 and 1971. These men are now enshrined in baseball's Hall of Fame. They are accompanied by Baseball Commissioner Bowie Kuhn. Let's welcome Brooks Robinson and Frank Robinson.
As you look at Mike Boddicker coming in, even Earl Weaver sitting here in this broadcast was applauding when Brooks and Frank threw out the first ceremonial balls. Frank, of course, the manager now of the San Francisco Giants, and Brooks, along with Chuck Thompson, broadcasts the games of the Baltimore Orioles on television here. So Boddicker has just made his way into the dugout. The Orioles will be taking the field momentarily. And while we're waiting, many of you saw Boddicker pitch last week in the playoffs. A masterful performance, a shutout against the White Sox, and he is summed up by a man who should know, the three-time Cy Young winner, Jim Palmer.
Well, he wouldn't have been here if I hadn't got hurt, Howard, so I guess I have to take a lot of credit. But with the exception of maybe 2 innings, he's had almost been perfect the entire year. He had an 8-run inning against Detroit, And then early in the year, he pitched a bad game against Kansas City, gave up a 3-run home run in 1 inning. Other than that, he's almost been picture perfect the entire year. But basically, he does everything a good pitcher should do. He throws strikes, he can field his position, he has a good fastball, better than people give him credit for. He's got excellent changeup, a good slider, and he has the best curveball in the American League. And when you couple all those things with an outstanding ball club, you can see why he's been so successful.
And the Orioles takes the field, the American League champions for 1983, winning the East by 6. And then in 4 games, they dispensed with the Chicago White Sox in the playoffs. And defensively, the Gold Glove first baseman is Eddie Murray. And also the cleanup hitter at second base, out of the University of Southern California, played there under Rod Data, Rich Dower, and right next to him, the shortstop and MVP candidate, Cal Ripken Jr. At third base, Todd Cruz, Leo Hernandez starting the season at third, and then Cruz picked up from Seattle in midseason. In the outfield tonight, it's the Steiner, John Lowenstein in left, who made the great catch last night to rob Bo Diaz in the 8th inning. In center field, and there's no change there with the right-hander Hudson going. It's Al Bumbry. We'll take a look at John Shelby in Game 3 facing Carlton, and there's Dan Ford in right field, who pinch hit last night, bothered by foot and knee injuries, but in the lineup tonight on the wet grass with Rick Dempsey back of the plate for the Orioles, and Mike Boddicker on the mound. Boddicker in that shutout victory against the White Sox last week looked like he was about ready to come out in the 8th inning, but appeared to get a second wind in the 9th, went all the way, threw 142 pitches in that game, and he led the American League in shutouts this season with 5. So he's thrown 6 in all, and for a man who started the season in the minors, that's quite a feat. Ed Vargo, a National League umpire, is back of the plate. Al Clark at first, Frank Pulley at second, Steve Palermo at third, and down the lines, Dutch Leonard in left, and Marty Springstead, who worked the plate last night, in right. And Springstead must have done a pretty good job last night, because there was nary a grumble.
Not a word. I thought he umpired a tremendous ball game. And I wanted to say about Frank and Brooks Robinson, when you had those type of people on your ball club, you just sit back and relax and let them play ball and make things happen.
So here we go with Joe Morgan to lead things off. Morgan, Rose, and Schmidt in the first inning. Game 2 with an off day tomorrow, and then on to Veterans Stadium Friday as Morgan swings and misses. Joe 1 for 4, 2 for 4 last night, with the home run in the 6th inning tying the game. He was second on the club to Schmidt in the regular season with 16 home runs. Change, and it's low. 1-1. Tony Kubek was describing it last week. Boddicker throws what they call here a fosh, which is a combination forkball and changeup. And they get the name because of the forkball FO and what they call the fish, a dead fish changeup. So they combine it, and that's how they get the name. As Morgan swings and misses, and that may have been a pitch.
And that was it. And what tremendous motion he has. If you're standing in home plate looking at Boddicker throw that ball, as he releases it, it looks like a fastball, but it just doesn't get up there.
2 balls, 2 strikes. Boddicker, who struck out 14 against the White Sox, working on Morgan in the first. And that one fooled Joe, but the plate umpire Vargo says no. Sometimes your reputation helps out, and Morgan has drawn more walks than anybody in National League history.
As it passed the hitter, it could have been just the least bit high.
Full count, borderline pick. Down he goes on a ball that he turned over.
Same motion on that pitch, and if he's going to throw that pitch on 3-2, there's no way that a hitter can stand there and be ready for it. Just an outstanding pitch, and Joe is way in front of the ball.
Well, Boddicker in 6 pitches gives you a pretty good demonstration right off the bat as to what type of a pitcher he is.
And Joe Morgan's going back to the dugout right now saying to his teammates, you're going to have to wait on the ball. You're going to have to wait on the ball.
Pete Rose, 1 for 4 last night. Looks at 1 in the dirt, and the count is 1 ball and no strikes. The field in good shape. The outfield is wet. It rained last night. It rained, of course, throughout the game last night, and then through the morning and the early afternoon here. As Rose takes a fastball for a strike, 1-1.
It's been many years ago, but this fellow reminds me a little bit of Stu Miller, who was master of the changeup, and the ball never got up to home plate.
Rose reaching out and fouling it away. The pitching coach, Ray Miller, refers to Boddicker as a left-handed or a right-handed Scott McGregor. So you get a pretty good idea after watching last night's game as to the type of stuff you'll see anyway tonight.
Scotty has an outstanding changeup, but the one that Boddicker threw to Morgan and the one that he used in the American League Championship game was just outstanding. It's one of the best I've seen.
Yet you have said repeatedly that a McGregor becomes more effective the more tired he gets, and yet I've heard you say the same thing about Boddicker.
Yeah, well, one thing McGregor can do, and Boddicker's going to have to show me, is throw that high fastball up out the strike zone to some of these hitters. He just tried it right there. Just tried it right there and see if he can get it by him.
He wasted that one. The count 2 balls and 2 strikes. Fouled away again. Pete Rose, at the age of 42. It's the Phillies' option, remember, whether or not they want Rose back next year. Bill Giles, the president, along with Paul Owens and the staff, will make that decision sometime after the series. Full count, 3-2.
We're back to 3-2 now, and we'll see if he stays with the same pattern of an off-speed pitch.
Boddicker from Norway, Iowa, 26 years old, and strike 3 called. The fastball up and away.
Fastball up and away, so they can't go back to the dugout and say that we can look for off-speed pitches at 3-2. He's thrown one off-speed pitch on 3-2 and one fastball on 3-2, and both of them in perfect spots.
And Pete knew it. Turned and briskly walked away.
Now he faces Schmidt. Think about a kid who starts the season in the minor leagues and then about 6 months later tell him in the World Series you will begin the game by striking out Joe Morgan and Pete Rose. He just did it. 1-0 the count.
This is the guy who lit a fire under his team with a public outburst during the season.
Grounded down to short. That's an easy play for Cal Ripken, and Boddicker has a 1-2-3 inning. So Morgan and Rose strike out. Schmidt grounds out, and after a half, it's the Phillies. Nothing, and the Orioles coming up. Pete Rose is at first base for Philadelphia. And at second base, of course, Joe Morgan, the veteran right side of the infield, and then the youthful one, Ivan De Jesus, who's only 30, the youngest member of the foursome, with Mike Schmidt over at third. The outfield, Gary Matthews remains in left. He had been platooned at points during the middle of the season, but he's in tonight. He had a hot championship series, of course. And then in center field, they go with Greg Gross with Houston and the Cubs and the Phillies as a part-time player for the past couple of years, and now in a platoon role. And in right field, as was the case last night, a player who started the season in San Diego. It was Sixto Lizcano yesterday. It's Joe LaFay tonight. He came over in a deal for Sid Monge in May. Bo Diaz is back at the plate for Philadelphia. And on the mound is a rookie pitcher who was just about as impressive as Boddicker in the playoffs, Charles Hudson, who pitched a beauty on Friday afternoon against the Dodgers in Game 3. Here in Baltimore, as you look around, a park that opened in 1954, 309 down the lines, then it fans out. 376 in the alleys, 405 to straightaway center. It has warmed up. I would guess right now the temperature is in the 70s. It's also very humid. The humidity is extremely high, but there's no rain. And the flags, quite in contrast to last night, are almost lit. Just barely a breath of a breeze.
Your attention, please.
What we have here is almost a perfect night for baseball.
The center fielder, number 1.
And, of course, sold out Memorial Stadium. Some of these folks lucky enough to have tickets, of course, to the games in Philly as well, because Philadelphia is only a 2-hour drive up I-95. We'll be there Friday night for game number 3. Bottom of the first inning with Al Bunbury to lead off, then Danny Ford and Cal Ripken. Bunbury last night hit a couple of balls on the nose, but at people, and then doubled in the 8th, so he was 1 for 4. 1-0 the count. Charles Hudson starting the season with the Portland club in the Pacific Coast League. Made 26 starts this year and throws a strike on the inside part. 1-1. 91 miles per hour. The clocking on Hudson's last pitch.
This young man from Prairie View A&M is a real power pitcher with astonishing poise for one who's been in baseball such a short period of time. He's only 24. He's really been in baseball only 3 years.
And he was a low round selection, the 12th pick in 1981. Bunbury fouls it back. One of the things the Phillies had in mind in winter ball, when Pat Corrales was still the manager and the scout Hugh Alexander was down there along with Paul Owens looking at some players, they wanted a pitcher ready to come up if needed during the season. And so they designated in their own minds Hudson, and he'd be the man. He didn't know it until he was called up. Fouled away, and the count 1 ball and 2 strikes.
One thing the scouting reports show on Hudson that the Baltimore Orioles know about, of course, they know that Hudson threw that pitch 91 miles an hour, so they're going to have to get those bats going. But they figure that when Hudson gets behind on a 2-0, 3-1 count or 3-2, he'll be coming in with that good hard fastball, and they might be ready for it.
2 balls, 2 strikes, the count on Al Bunbury.
His 8-8 won and lost record utterly deceiving. He had a streak where he won 5 straight when it counted most during the season. His performance in the playoffs spoke for itself.
Fouled away. Also, in a way, he pitched a little better down the stretch, I think, than people gave him credit for, even though he didn't pitch with a lot of success. He kept them in some games in which he didn't wind up with a W toward the end. And not only did he finish at 500, 8-8, he was 4-4 at home, he was 4-4 at the road, and he had nearly identical ERAs home and road. Little scribber, and it's a fair ball. Diaz throws him out. So Bunbury is gone, 1 away in the first inning. And we'll take a look at Dan Ford.
Batting second.
Last night's game, as you take a look at ERAs in September, and evidence right there, Hudson 208, even though, as I say, he didn't win with regularity. He kept them in games. Last night's game, just about controversial free. In fact, if you had to look for anything at all controversial, you've got to go down to do you hit Renicky instead of Ford in the 8th inning. But that's really stretching it. It was a quickly paced game. 2 hours and 22 minutes, and that's about as fast as you see a World Series game played these days.
Ford has hit .276 against right-handed pitchers, Al. Against lefties, .287. Dwyer, the man benched tonight in favor of Dan, who had a hot bat last night, has hit .279 against righties. But Ford, as Earl pointed out earlier in the telecast, has been the basic regular.
1-1.
Ford's the type of player that can really get hot, and after sitting out last night, maybe he'll have one of those 5 or 6 game hot streaks, similar to Matthews had in the National League playoff series, and that's what Altobelli's looking for right now.
1 ball, 2 strikes the count. Ford coming back as you look at the first-year manager of the Orioles, Joe Altobelli. Altobelli, a long-time minor league manager. When Earl was here, Altobelli was at Rochester in AAA. Then he finally got a big league break with the Giants and lasted there nearly 3 seasons. And was fired at San Francisco. Coached for the Yankees at third base last season. 2-2. Ford almost walked into the pitch with that closed stance.
Yes, he did.
A second to go. I'm sorry, Earl. You had a glimpse of the man who means so much, who's on the bench, Ken Singleton.
Well, they definitely missed him last night.
There he is, Rick Dempsey, sitting to Ken's right, left of your screen.
They're going to have someone who is not expected to get hot as the ball's hit Schmidt at third base.
And Mike fields it and throws to first. It's an easy play for the second out. 2 down.
They're going to have somebody who isn't expected to get hot. That hasn't led them all year to get hot in this series. Maybe it's a Ford, maybe it'll be a Dempsey, maybe it'll be a Dollar.
I'm sorry, they have to have Ed Murray hitting the way he can hit to win this series.
Well, that's true also, Howard.
Here is Cal Ripken. Sexto Lezcano was quoted today as saying he felt that outside of Ripken and Murray, there wasn't a whole lot to worry about in the Oriole lineup. 1-0.
Well, with the ball game that Denny pitched against him last night, it would appear that way.
In the air to right field, and LeFay is coasting over. Remember, only 309 into the corner, but he has room to make the catch. And the Orioles are gone in order. So both clubs go out 1, 2, 3, and after 1, there's no score in game 2.
Baltimore City.
But a very poor start. He was bothered by injuries earlier in the season. He discussed them.
I played a lot injured the first part of the year. I had my legs were bothering me, and I'm just not a good hitter without strong legs because I'm not a very big person, so I hit with my legs. And I had a lot of problems early in the season. I got well about the middle of August, completely well, I should say. And from that point on, I hit the ball real good. But by the time I got well, we were really platooning me, and I wasn't playing every day. After I got hot, the end of August, I started playing every single day against left-handers and everybody, and that's why I had such a good September.
Joe Morgan talking about his ailments as Joe LeFay leads off in the second inning.
This kid's got a quick bat. When he first came up with the Yankees, it looked like he'd become a star with the Yankee ball club. Then they found weaknesses, vulnerabilities, and he was sent away.
I don't believe he's got too many weaknesses. I believe he's a real good ball player. I thought, like you did, he was really going to help the Yankee ball player.
And a fastball blows him away. So Boddicker is showing you everything. The pitch they call the Fox, he's turning it over, and here just pure heat.
A little bit out of the strike zone, and he's going to tease him with some of those fastballs.
I think, Earl, a word must be mentioned about a remarkable, that pitch, by the way, was 90 miles an hour, Boddicker's fastest. Word must be mentioned about the groundskeeper here, the remarkable job that's been done by Pat Santarone.
It's almost unbelievable. The nice grass he's got out there with 4 football games and one played just last Saturday. I remember playing World Series here where all the grass was worn off in the outfield, and if it rained, there'd be big mud puddles out there.
Gary Matthews takes outside.
He used a chemical agent, Al, as you look at Paul Owens with the ever-present Bobby Wine next to him. He used a chemical agent that is a drying agent.
Something he might be the best.
Yeah, some. The groundskeeper at Kansas City is great.
George
Tolman.
Exactly.
But Pat Santarone and I were together in Elmira, New York, in Class A baseball.
Matthews hits a bouncer down to third. A nice convenient hop for Todd Cruz. And that's 5 in a row. The first 5 set down by Mike Boddicker. Cruz, by the way, might have as good an arm as any infielder in the American League. 2 down.
And Neil McCarles, he's a sports writer from Toronto. He takes a poll every year of the ball players. And Todd consistently was voted the best infield arm in the American League.
Better than Aurelio Rodriguez.
This is after Aurelio was not playing regular.
Here is Greg Groves, who takes a strike. Greg Groves, an interesting career, came up with Houston. He was a starter there. He doesn't have much power. Spray hitter, likes to go the other way. Then to the Cubs, mainly on the bench, as he bounces it down to second, but playing part-time right now. Another 1-2-3 inning, and the Phillies have not hit the ball out of the infield. So Boddicker now, going back to the regular season, has thrown 16 consecutive scoreless innings. No score going to the bottom of the second. Game 3 will be played Friday night. The time's at the bottom of the screen. Mike Flanagan will be on the mound for Baltimore. Steve Carlton will work for Philadelphia. Tomorrow is an off day. And then back on Friday, a day game on Saturday, and a late afternoon Eastern time game on Sunday, if there is a Sunday. Well, there'll be a Sunday if there's a game on Sunday.
I would hope.
Eddie Murray in the bottom of the second inning. Baltimore certainly hopes there'll be a Sunday. No score in the bottom of the second inning.
By the way, when we moved to Philadelphia, the Phils had the best home record in the National League. The Birds had the best road record in the American League. Interesting contrast.
Murray hits it high in the air to left center field. Loping over is Gross to make the catch. One away. Lowenstein coming up. Gross platooning in center. Lowenstein, of course, platoons in left for Baltimore. And he talks about it.
Number 38.
Oh, absolutely, and I think it's essential to the psychological welfare of the player involved to be told something like that, because immediately Earl let me know what was going to be expected of me, and I appreciated that, and I did not deviate from that course. And being a situation type player that I am, I kind of loved playing that role. As a matter of fact, I have no desire to play full-time. We have so many guys in this ball club that lend support toward a winning effort in the same capacity that I'm actually thrilled to be able to be part of it.
Well, as Lowenstein talks about platooning, he winds up wrapping a double into the gap in right center field.
Look at that graphic. Last 85 home runs hit off right-handed.
John told me once he stayed in a ball game. We were winning big, and I didn't pinch hit for him. He struck out against the left-hander. He says, "Don't ever do that to me."
Here is Rich Dower, 0 for 3 last night. So now let's see if we see some punch in the bottom of the Oriole lineup, which was missing last night. Out of the 6, 7, 8, and 9 spots last night, the Orioles were a collective 0 for 12. Lowenstein at second base. 1 out in the bottom of the second inning. Blocked by Diaz, and the count is 1-1.
Rich Dower is the type of hitter, if he's not hitting, and he had an off year, gets anxious and swings at bad pitches. I think Rich could be the offensive player they're looking for if he could be patient and get strikes. Drive the ball to left field and to right field. A lot of people have told me he's quit trying to hit the ball to right field when the pitchers have gone away from him.
1 ball, 1 strike. In the air to left center field. And an easy fly ball for Matthews. And tagging at second and on his way to third is Lowenstein as the throw is well off the mark. John Lowenstein taking advantage of the arm of Gary Matthews, which is relatively strong but quite erratic.
Well, he misplayed the fly ball. He had to go back at the last minute, and I think that's why John decided to tag up and go to third base. But I do want to say that outfield, it has rained all day, and that outfield is just the least bit wet, and we could see some outfielders slip on it before the night's over.
That's also a good scouting report, obviously, on the part of the Orioles, because that's about the way Matthews plays every routine fly ball.
Well,
he catches him.
He catches him.
He catches him, but as he caught that ball, he was not in a position to throw.
Which Lowenstein immediately realized. As for the slippage factor in the outfield, that chemical drying agent I told you about.
As Cruz hits it in the air to center field, Gross went the wrong way but has time to recover. He started back as Cruz hit that one off the end of the bat, but he had plenty of time to recover as the ball just hung up. So they strand Lowenstein at third after a double, and we've played 2 in Baltimore with no score. On Saturday, World Series Game 4 early, and following that, NCAA college football, top-ranked Nebraska taking on Missouri at Missouri following the 4th game of the World Series. Third inning, Al Michaels, Howard Cosell, Earl Weaver. In the third, no score, Diaz, DeJesus, and Hudson against Boddicker, who has retired the first 6. He has struck out 3. Hasn't allowed a ball out of the infield. One and go.
Getting back to that slippage factor, there may be some, but remarkably little, I think, Earl. You didn't see it as Gross came in for Cruz's short fly. And that chemical drying agent that Pat Santarone used, he laid it all over under the grass, a half-inch in. And he says it's the most remarkable effect. Takes all the water out.
1-2 the count.
Well, Gross took a couple steps back on that ball and then recovered. And if it was real slippery, that was a ball that might have dropped in.
Exactly.
Also, the field in outstanding shape, as you pointed out last night, Howard. Football game played here last Sunday. There'll also be another Colts game here this Sunday, as it's popped up on the right side. Dower and Murray are there. 1 away. On the subject of football, this town talking about the Colts as well as the Orioles, because they're 4-2. By the way, I've got a trivia question for you.
Wait a second. Look at Boddicker. Steadily better during the course of a game. And that gets back to the question I raised with Earl. Ongoing fatigue seems to produce greater efficiency.
Well, that's true now. But this kid shows a lot of heart. And a lot of young pitchers, when they come up, when they smell that victory, reach back and get just a little bit extra.
De Jesus takes the ball. Let me get back to that trivia question I was going to ask you, Coach.
Yeah.
Only man to play under Earl Weaver and Frank Bush. Who would it be? Played for Earl Weaver and Frank Bush.
Reggie Jackson.
You've got it.
How'd you know that, Howard?
Somebody in the truck spat it out.
Chuck Howard, who loves college football, of course, as it's grounded to short, and Ripken goes to Murray to get him. 2 down. Reggie played here in 1976 under Earl.
Played at Arizona State under Frank.
He was an outstanding defensive back as a sophomore.
Defensive back?
Yes, he was.
Should have been a fullback.
Well, he was a defensive back because
Number 49.
man could play.
Charles Hudson.
But then Bobby Winkles got a hold of him, and that was that. 2 down. Base is empty, and Charles Hudson is the batter.
Charlie Finley got a hold of him.
Yeah, after Winkles. A strike in the count 0-1. Starting out like last night's game.
We said that this would be a hotly contested pitchers series. These are two very balanced clubs.
We don't know what's going to happen in this ball game, but Friday night we're going to get Mike Flanagan, former Cy Young Award winner, and Carlton, 4-time Cy Young Award winner. Ball grounded back to Botteriger. Left thrown underneath, goes to Murray.
And 3 up and 3 down, and that's 9 consecutive outs. And none of the Phils has hit the ball out of the infield after 2.5. Philadelphia nothing, and Baltimore nothing.
Interesting story. The brilliant running back of the University of Oklahoma, Marcus Dupree, suspended from the Sooners for failure to appear at practice Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Said to be, in fact, in seclusion back in Jackson, Mississippi. Be interesting to see if Coach Switzer takes him back. Should Marcus desire to come back.
Meanwhile, here, most of the bats have been in seclusion as we play 2.5. John Lowenstein has the only hit in the game, a double in the 2nd inning. Baltimore comes up in the bottom of the 3rd inning with Dempsey, Boddicker, and Bunbury. One and 0 on Dempsey, who hit .231 during the regular season with 4 homers and 32 runs batted in. 0-2 last night. One and 1.
Hudson's getting his fastball in some pretty good spots right now.
He is a good-looking young pitcher. And if you were around that Philadelphia dugout tonight, you saw a team with self-belief. They are really a confident ball club now.
Well, being up 1 game in a 7-game series will do that for you.
And having a lot of fellas who have been around. Rose and Morgan and Perez and Carlton and Reed and Schmidt. And Maddox, who's not playing tonight. The 2-1 pitch is swing and a miss from the count. And down goes 2-2 is what the scoreboard says. And Dempsey says, now what's the count? The board said 2-1. And Dempsey said, I thought it was 2-1.
What are you laughing at, Rick?
Now it says 2-2. Now Diaz is arguing.
He won the argument.
Well, Diaz is saying, now what is the deal here?
The deal is it's 2-2. Your call was correct. The scoreboard was wrong.
Ed Bargo, who is the senior umpire in the National League, he's been through this before. He is saying it is 2-2.
Well, the umpire is going to be right because he holds a little indicator in his hand with 3 balls and 2 strikes in it. And he turns the wheel every time so he can look down and see.
Popped up, and Joe Morgan is there to the right of second base to pull it in. So Dempsey is gone anyway. 1 out in the 3rd inning. And a hand for the pitcher, Mike Boddicker, who's become an instant hero in this city.
And well should be.
You know, there's a great similarity between these 2 great pitching staffs. Each finished 2nd in the league in earned run average.
And Boddicker showing that he can swing the bat with that cut.
He went after that one. He's not going to stand there and take. That pitch was up out of the strike zone.
The Phillies staff's earned run average was 3.34. The Birds 3.63.
Here's the indicator being held by Vargo, to which Earl referred.
You used to use that when you were growing up in Los Angeles at Alexander Hamilton High School, didn't you?
Absolutely, and before that in Brooklyn.
We just had an excellent shot of the indicator. It was in the left hand, and you could see it when Vargo went down and put his left hand on his left knee.
2 balls and a strike. And it's fouled away, and the count 2-2. At the University of Iowa, Boddicker played third base 1 year. So at least he's not a total stranger when it comes to swinging the bat.
He's had 2 good swings, so it doesn't look like he's going to be an automatic out.
Boddicker moved from Cedar Rapids to Norway, Iowa.
Strike 3 as Hudson finds the outside corner. Boddicker goes down. That's the first strikeout for Charles Hudson. Another look.
Boddicker didn't think this pitch was a strike. He turned around and looked at Vargo, but it tailed back in and got a good portion of the corner.
What he might have said is, don't forget, if I put the same pitch right there.
You've got to say that before you go back.
Same call, yeah. 2 out, bases empty, and Al Bunbury is the batter. Postseason, meaning playoffs and World Series, as you looked at the graphic, 2-13 in postseason play. 2 out, nobody on, with no score in the bottom of the third. 1-0. Look in from just about the right field foul pole. 1-1. Bunbury stepping out.
Again tonight, we've got 2 pitchers that work fairly quick, and I wouldn't be surprised to see more hitters stepping out trying to break their rhythm.
Both staffs feature pitchers that work quickly. Of course, on Friday night, we're going to see Steve Carlton, who works as quickly as anyone. 1-2 the count.
You can't put a pitch in a better spot than that.
That's it. He really threw that pitch. That's what I was about to say. Just beautiful.
There it is again. Knee high, outside corner. How can you hit that pitch?
1-2 to Bunbury is up high in the count. 2 balls and 2 strikes.
You mentioned earlier, Al, that Bunbury was swinging well last night. A far cry from his dismal performance in the '79 series. And I think you're right.
He is. He looks determined.
Count stays 2-2 in the Philadelphia dugout. Tony Perez, man in the middle right there, who started the season very, very hot. In fact, he helped to carry this club early. He was making several starts at first base, and then he tailed off and assumed the role for which he was signed, pinch hitter. And Bunbury takes strike 3, and Al, a normally very affable and happy sort, expresses his displeasure with Vargo. So Hudson painting the corners here in the third inning, throwing perfect pitches to Boddicker and again Bunbury. Strike 2 was a perfect pitch. And as we go out, take a look at strike 3. And we've played 3 with no score in Baltimore. We go to the 4th inning. No score. Mike Boddicker works on Joe Morgan, who struck out his first trip, and he takes a strike. Boddicker has been perfect through 3. He has struck out 3. Hasn't allowed a ball out of the infield. 5 grounders. 0-2.
This should be a very interesting inning, though. The Reds, you'll look at Joe Morgan, Pete Rose, all of them. It's almost inevitable. The Phils will be looking at Boddicker second time around.
Grounded toward the hole. Ripken was playing up the middle, knocks it down, and that's all. Morgan, a pull hitter. So Ripken was playing over toward the middle, and he's been playing over toward the middle more since Todd Cruz was acquired at third. Cruz has more range than Hernandez did, and this time he had to go back and couldn't make the play.
First baseman, Pete Rose.
There it is. Ordinarily, he'd get that ball. You'll see him slip just slightly on this grass right here. The ball hit on the heel of his glove.
But if he gets it, does he get Morgan?
He's got a good shot because last night he showed us he could throw from the hole.
That's scored as an infield hit, and Morgan goes. Rose takes outside. Morgan got a good jump and steals it. It was a close play, and Boddicker is upset at the call at second base, and so is Ripken. He's disgruntled as well. Morgan got a tremendous jump.
I want to see this again. You just don't steal on Rick Dempsey.
It was a perfect throw, Howard. It comes in knee-high right there, a little bit higher than knee-high. There goes the hand into the bag, and I believe the umpire got it right.
Good call.
He didn't steal it on Rick Dempsey. He stole it on Boddicker.
You're right.
He had a walking lead and was going immediately and gets it. He's there. That angle proving it very conclusively. No argument at all. Frank Pulley, the umpire at second. Rose bluffs a bunt, and the count is now 2-0.
Now that shows that Paul Owens has just a little bit of respect for Boddicker, and he's going to try to get that runner from second over to third with should Pete bunt with one out.
Rose laying it down, and Morgan has to hold. Dempsey throws and kicks him. So Rose made what at first appeared to be a perfect bunt, but he didn't get it out far enough, and Morgan, sensing that Dempsey was going to make the play, was frozen.
It's hard to believe the agility of Rick Dempsey. And you can carry a hitter that hits 224 when he can do defensively the things that we just watched him do.
That's why, despite the paucity of power in the bottom of that batting order, Joe Altobelli remains loath to bench Dempsey in order to get Nolan's better bat in there. He's not going to do it. And Dempsey remains the leader of this team in spirit, in know-how, in everything.
Mike Smith standing in. That little bunt right there, a perfect illustration of the difference between grass and AstroTurf. In Philadelphia, that's a sacrifice bunt because it takes that kangaroo little hop on the turf. And Morgan advances.
That's definitely true.
Schmidt grounded out in the first inning. Mike is looking for his first hit in the series. He's 0 for 5. Pickoff play is on. Morgan getting back as Dower had cut in behind on a timing play.
That's a play that the Orioles don't hesitate to use. Even if they don't get him, might keep Joe Morgan a step closer to second base should Mike get a base hit.
And with Schmidt a full hitter, Dower is pushed over toward the middle anyway, so Morgan can't get a big lead as Boddicker throws it up and in.
Last night, the first few times up, they pitched Mike Schmidt outside. I see they're going in and out with him tonight.
2 balls and no strikes to count. 1 out, 4th inning. No score.
You know, the way the wind was blowing to left field last night can influence a pitcher's thinking as far as pitching right-handed hitters away.
Swung on and missed, and the count now 2 balls and 1 strike on Mike Schmidt.
Amplify what you meant with that, Earl.
Well, you get the ball on the inside half of the plate, it gives a right-hand hitter a much better chance to pull the ball. And if you make a mistake, you'd rather make it on the outside half where he has to hit the ball to center field or right field.
2-1 to Schmidt. Missing away, ball 3. A look at how the defense is aligned. As you can see, Dower, the second baseman, well over, and Murray 25 feet off the line at first. Three and 1, LeFay is on deck. And Morgan goes. He got another good jump. This is grounded to short. It's Ripken who throws to first, and Murray can't make the play. He got handcuffed. Morgan is at third. So runners at first and third with 1 out, and LeFay coming up. And Morgan's talking to Bristol at third. The way he indicated with his hands to Dave, it was almost as if maybe you should have sent me in on that. See, Morgan was at third. And Murray gets handcuffed at first base.
It's hard to believe, but what I believe happened on that play is Eddie Murray was conscious of the fact that Joe Morgan might score, and as the ball was coming across the infield, I believe he took his eye off of the ball and watched to see if Morgan was going to go.
I believe you're 100% right, and you could almost see him instinctively looking over to third base to see if Joe is making the turn and sprinting in.
Infield looking for the double play, and it's hit high in the air to center field. If it stays in, it's deep enough to score a run. Bunbury makes the catch, and both runners are tagging as Schmidt slides into second with Morgan crossing the plate. So LeFay delivers a sacrifice fly, and Philadelphia takes a 1-0 lead here in the 4th inning.
This team is playing opportunistic baseball. This team is doing everything right, these Phillies. They forced that run. It was Baltimore that made the mistake, and it wasn't Bodica's fault. That's the first run scored against him in 17 2/3 innings.
Fantastic streak.
And it's also an unearned run, because that would have been the 3rd out. Matthews is the batter and takes a strike. The scoring on Schmidt's ball, Ripken gets an assist, and then Murray gets the error at first base. 6-3. LeFay follows with a sacrifice fly, and so with 2 out, Schmidt at second, and 0-1 the count on Matthews, who hits it in the air to center field. And Al Bunbury will put this one away. But Murray's error is costly, as the Phillies score an unearned run here in the 4th inning. 1 hit, 1 error, 1 left in the middle of the 4th at Memorial Stadium in Baltimore. It's Philadelphia 1, Baltimore nothing in Game 2 of the 1983 World Series. Bottom of the 4th inning, Philadelphia leading 1-0 with Dan Ford, Cal Ripken, and Eddie Murray to face the rookie Charles Hudson. By the way, the last time 2 rookies linked up in a World Series game, 1981 Game 3 at Dodger Stadium. Dave Righetti pitched for New York. Fernando Valenzuela pitched for Los Angeles, and that was a classic game.
Ah, yes, I remember it well. That's when they put Bobby Brown in center field and benched Jerry Mumphrey, and that turned the tide of events. But in the meantime, I tell you, that kid LeFay hit that ball a ton, and the ball is hanging heavy in this sultry air. I thought it was out of there.
He hit it to the deepest part of the ballpark, Howard. Any place else it had a real good chance of going out.
Ford swinging and missing, 0-1. Charles Hudson on the mound for the Phillies and showing remarkable poise and composure as he did on Friday against the Dodgers. He was staggering at one point in that game, but continued on.
They're so proud of him down at Prairie View A&M, Al. A school that turned out one of the greatest football players I have ever seen.
1-2. And that man's name was?
Number 89, Otis Taylor.
Charles Hudson is certainly painting that outside corner. He's thrown some pitches that have been unhittable up to this point.
1-2 pitch coming up. He got him swinging. So he has struck out 3, and they are successes. He got Boddicker and Bunbury on perfect pitches in the 3rd, and blows this one right by Dan Ford.
His confidence seems to be bubbling now.
Yes, it is, and he had a good second half of the season, and a good game in the playoffs, and confidence builds more confidence. He feels right now that he can throw that ball wherever he wants to, and he's throwing it hard.
Ripken is the batter. A strike. They started to call him Charlie when he first came up. He doesn't care, but he said, hey, look, my mom wants to be known as Charles.
But this is when he has to be careful.
0-2.
Had him chasing that a little.
Well, I'm sure...
94.
I'm sure the book on Cal Ripken Jr. is that he's a very good low ball hitter. Looks like Hudson is trying to stay up in the strike zone to him.
In the air to center field, and an easy play for Greg Gross. So 2 down, and now they're getting on Eddie Murray a little bit as he comes up. His postseason problems have been well documented, of course.
You speak of the 79 series.
Absolutely, and also the playoffs. He hit that monstrous home run in Chicago the other day, but outside of that, not much else.
Well, he felt so embarrassed about dropping that throw. In the upper half of the inning, you could see his discomfiture as he went into the dugout. That may fire him up.
And if Eddie does something here, it might fire up the whole Oriole ball club.
They must have him producing if they are to have a chance to win.
1-0 the count. Just took enough off it in the count, 1-1. Again, if you're just tuning in, Morgan a single and a steal, and then Murray dropped a throw from Ripken with Morgan going to third. LeFay hit a sacrifice fly in the top of this inning, and it's 1-0. Half swing as he tried to duck away from it, and the count 1-2.
Howard, you said that Eddie has to do it. Well, Eddie himself knows he has to do it, and that puts a little extra pressure on him. He's trying real hard right now, and he might be over-trying.
Another look at a pitch he tries to fight off. Gets jammed and grounds it to Schmidt, who ranges halfway to second, and down he goes. And so Hudson in 4 innings has faced one over the minimum. He's retired 12 of 13, and we'll go to the 5th. The Phillies won, and the Orioles nothing. In the World Series, back with you Friday at 8, Saturday 12:30 Eastern time, and then college football following that, Nebraska against Missouri, Saturday afternoon. Here in the 5th inning, Mike Boddicker working on Greg Gross. 0-1 the count. Gross, Diaz, and De Jesus. Philadelphia leading 1-0.
That's the machine the Phillies use to tape their people as they bat.
And they have a monitor in the dugout with it also.
Grounded down to short. Ripken going first. One away, and a mock cheer goes up for Murray.
And they can go in the minute that they come back from home plate and go in and rerun that tape and see what they look like.
Catcher.
And the last at bat.
Bo Diaz comes up, popped out in the 3rd inning.
Still can't get over that catch of Lowenstein's yesterday, and I don't blame him.
0-1.
That ball was out of here. I don't know how Lowenstein got his hand back, ball in the glove, without bumping into the fence.
Without bumping into the fence. It was an amazing feat.
No balls, 2 strikes to count. There has not been a walk in either game to this point. Yesterday's game only the 4th in series history. Make it the 5th. It had been 4th without a walk, and we're possibly on our way to another. Well, the odds against that are pretty staggering.
Well, this could be another of those one-run games, and who is it that says good teams never lose close decisions or one-run games? Because Baltimore this year won 20 and lost 19 in one-run games, and the Phillies won 23 and lost 23 in one-run games. So neither team has been outstanding in that regard.
And it's called strike 3. Bo Diaz fooled, probably looking for the fastball, and gets a breaking pitch on the inner part of the plate.
Good curveball. That was a curveball that Mike Boddicker started at the hitter. He backs off of it a little bit, and it breaks back over the plate. Looked like Dempsey gave it a little bit of help there when he pulled it inside, too.
4 strikeouts for Boddicker. And so Ivan De Jesus comes up, grounded out in the 3rd inning. Phillies 1, Orioles nothing in the 5th. A strike. Boddicker finished 2nd in the American League in earned run average this season. As it's bounced down to Murray, he'll shovel, and the out is recorded to retire the side. So that's the 4th 1-2-3 inning for Boddicker. But the Phillies scored in the 4th, and after 4.5, it's still 1-0 Philadelphia. Well, they hope that'll happen here in Baltimore. Right now, they're down 1-0. They're down 1-0 in game number 2. As we go to the bottom half of the 5th inning. Lowenstein, Dower, and Cruz come up against the rookie Charles Hudson. Lowenstein with 15 home runs during the regular season. He has the only Baltimore hit. A double in the 2nd inning. Hudson taking some time to clean off his spikes. And Charles will get ready to go to work here in the bottom of the 5th inning.
Fans now are trying to get something started, trying to give the home team a little bit of help.
For the baseball purist, the aficionado, so to speak, both games have been picture games. Pitchers do it.
Pitchers do it.
Infrequent mistakes in the field. Eddie Murray's tonight, one that stands out. But the average fan likes to see runs and more runs and home runs. So for them, no.
In the air to center field and deep. They may be looking at a home run right here. And they are.
There's a little of that excitement you were talking about, especially for the hometown fans, Howard. It was a fastball over the outside half of the plate that John seemed to be looking for. He seemed to creep up just a little bit on the plate and went out and got it. And hit it right back up the middle. Get to see it again right here. Tailing away just a little. John up a little closer on the plate. Got all of that ball. Hit it over the 405 sign in center field.
I hope nobody asked him in the clubhouse after the game, what did you hit? You remember what his answer was?
Yeah, and that he said, I hit a home run. The writers usually want to find out what type of pitch he hit, curveball, fastball, changeup. Every time they asked John what he hit, he said, I hit a homer.
And to the deepest part of the park, and it really carried on a windless, breezeless night. 0-1 the count on Dower, who fouls it straight back. Well, it's interesting. The games have been low scoring, as you pointed out, Howard, and another look right here. There have been 5 runs in the 2 games. That's not very many, but 4 home runs.
And the other unearned.
Right. Dower hit a home run in Game 7 of the 79 World Series, and that was the only run the Orioles scored. Everybody remembers Stargell's home run that day as Pittsburgh won it. Crowd has really come alive. 1 ball, 2 strikes to count on Dower.
Hudson continues to make good pitches with that fastball on the outside half of the plate. I believe that all of the Oriole hitters are going to have to do what Lowenstein did, get up on that plate just a little bit.
Ripped in the left, that's a base hit. So with nobody out, Dower is at first base in the bottom of the 5th inning.
That pitch was on the inside half of the plate right there, and Dower got good wood on the ball.
Todd Cruz comes up. So that's the first hit that's hit by Dower is the first hit the Orioles in 2 games have gotten out of the 6, 7, 8, or 9 hitters. Bunt by Cruz. Smith with bare hand, and Smith had a double clutch. Everybody safe to throw to second. Too late there.
Joe Morgan was not expecting the sacrifice, and he was just a little bit late getting to first base.
And that's the reason why Smith double clutched it. Here it is.
A good sacrifice attempt laid right down the third baseline. Smith comes in, makes a nice play. He's ready to throw, and there's no one there. He had a hold up. By the time Morgan got there, Smith was off balance and made a low throw.
And Joe never did really get to the base, as you viewers just saw. And that's really astonishing because Morgan, the teacher, rarely makes a mental mistake.
That's true. We got the 7th hitter at the plate in Todd Cruz. I can understand why they might not be expecting a sacrifice bunt with the 8th hitter, Rick Dempsey, and the pitcher coming up to drive him in.
Yeah, would you bunt with the pitcher coming up next?
I think I'd give it a shot. You got a left-handed hitter in Al Bunbury if Boddicker doesn't get him in, and I said
not only that, Boddicker takes a pretty good swing.
The first time up, Boddicker had some pretty good cuts. At least he looked like he wanted to hit the ball.
Meanwhile, you've got Osteen, Owens, and Wine. They look on. Dempsey stands in. Rose is at the edge of the grass at first. Schmidt is even with the bag. Morgan and DeJesus are halfway. Dempsey will swing away and takes low ball one.
Well, I was about to say, if I'm the defensive manager in this situation, I wouldn't put on any bunt plays where I'd have too many people charging on this, because you do have the pitcher coming up behind Rick Dempsey.
Dower is at second. And Cruz at first with nobody out. Dempsey on a half swing. It's a strike, 1-1. Now in the bullpen, Willie Hernandez gets up, the left-hander acquired from Chicago in May for Dick Ruthven.
Joe Altobelli can figure here if Dempsey, give Dempsey a chance to hit, and then he can get the runners over with his pitcher, and Bunbury will still have his shot.
Dempsey fouling it back upstairs, straight back, and the count is 1 ball and 2 strikes.
The one thing you worry about when you don't put that sacrifice bunt on is the double play ball.
With nobody out, bottom of the 5th inning, Dower, who singled, is at second. Cruz was given a base hit on the Schmidt play. He's at first. And the 1-2 pitch on its way to Rick Dempsey is drilled into the right field corner for extra bases. That will score Dower. And on his way to third as the relay gets by DeJesus. It's backed up by Schmidt. Cruz stops at third. 2-1.
Altobelli gave Dempsey a chance to hit the ball, and Dempsey went right with the pitch on the outside half. Did a double to right field.
So the spirited catcher, the team leader, you don't write him off. The Yankees know all about Dempsey. He was once a Yankee, came to Baltimore in that remarkable trade that brought Scotty McGregor and Tippy Martinez to Baltimore that we discussed yesterday. There goes Claude Osteen out to the mound.
Mike Schmidt makes a nice play. As you watch LaFay play it off the wall, he has a tremendous arm, but so good in that particular case, it bypasses DeJesus, and Schmidt is right there to back it up and save a run.
And it's a good thing Mike Schmidt was heads up, because 2 runs might have scored on that play.
Exactly so.
Again from this angle, LaFay, a good outfielder, plays it perfectly, and he's in a foreign park. And the throw comes sailing in. But Schmidt saves the run. So 2-1 Baltimore. With Cruz, the runner at third. Dempsey at second. So the Orioles, whose bottom of the order had been 0 for 16 in 2 games, all of a sudden, Dower, the 6th hitter, a single. Cruz, the 7th hitter, a bunt single. Dempsey, the 8th hitter, a double. And it's 2-1.
And Paul Owens has decided to play his infield halfway.
Boddicker is at the plate. A chopper, and that's foul. 0-1.
Now watch this. Watch him reach out, hit this ball, take it to right field. That's what you always had him do against the Yankees in the clutch, Earl.
When he was with the Yankees, he hit the ball a lot to right field against the Baltimore Orioles.
Still nobody out. Baltimore leading 2-1. Boddicker to be followed by Al Bunbury.
That was really a classic evidence of a man going outside, going with the pitch.
Up high. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Outstanding determination by Dempsey. You know, there's a possible chance of a squeeze play here, but I
wouldn't risk it here, Earl.
I wouldn't risk it here with nobody out. You can take yourself right out of the inning.
2-1 the count. Where you see the squeeze normally is with 1 man out.
Key to this inning was still the double flex non-throw by Schmidt because Morgan wasn't covered.
Hit to left field on a line to Matthews. Cruz tags. The catch is made. Here comes the throw. It is not in time. 3-1.
And Mike Boddicker had a very good cut at that ball.
He really did.
Especially after not going to the plate all year long. You know, he hadn't been up the plate. That's why the squeeze were out also. He's not familiar with getting that ball on the ground. Looked like the play might be close. The throw was off. Left side of the plate.
So Baltimore leads it 3-1. Hudson coming into the inning and faced only one man over the minimum. And he's been rocked, and he's also going to be out of the game as you watch Matthews again, because Owens is going to the mound at this very moment.
Well, Owens is going to the mound because he observed what Earl just observed, that Boddicker had a real good cut and slap at that ball.
So it'll be Hernandez coming in. One out in the fifth inning, 3-1. We'll be back after this word from your local station.
When the cannon sounds, 17,000 people will take the first steps of what will feel like a lifetime. The New York City Marathon, live October 23rd on ABC.
Willie Hernandez, who came over to the Phillies from the Cubs in the deal that sent Dick Ruthven to Chicago on May 22nd, appeared in 63 games as a Philly this season and 11 others with Chicago, so he pitched in 74 total and had a career-high 9 victories. Now, in the fourth inning, the Phillies got their run that way. Morgan reaching third on the Murray error and LeFay hitting the sacrifice fly. But here, in the fifth inning, Lowenstein, the home run to dead center. Dower, the solid single. Cruz, the bunt single. With Morgan late covering first base, Dempsey goes to right for a double, and then Boddicker hits a sac fly to Gary Matthews as John Shelby comes off the bench. They platoon in center field, and with Hernandez now pitching, it's Shelby who comes up to bat.
And Joe Altobelli is not wasting any time using his roster to the fullest in this game. You can see that.
And while Bunbury's a pretty good defensive ball player, this fella is considered an outstanding defensive ball player, so that'll help him also with the 2-run lead.
Pop foul, and drifting back out of play. No balls, 1 strike. Earl, the word is, as you look at Altobelli, Shelby's the center fielder of the future when Bunbury's done. Do you look at it that way?
Oh, definitely. Every day center fielder. He hits from both sides of the plate. In fact, this fella hit better in his first year than I thought he might. I thought he wouldn't be playing as much as he did his first 1 or 2 years in the big league.
Check swing. And it's a strike. They get the call at first base from Al Clark.
Al Clark at first base. I think he got it right. John's a little impatient. Little breaking ball in the dirt. What do you think, Aaron?
It was a good call.
No balls, 2 strikes. Outside. Interestingly enough, Shelby this season hit .264 against lefties and .310 against righties. Didn't see that many righties, all things considered, with Bunbury playing a lot, but still a switch hitter and proving he can hit from both sides of the plate. Reaching out, and the count 1 ball and 2 strikes. Dempsey, the runner at second. 1 away.
He's been impatient, as most young ball players are when they get to the big leagues. One thing that helped John get into a lot of ball games is he did get off to a good start.
Willie Hernandez, who first came up with the Cubs in 1977, the 1-2 pitch is hit foul. Into the upper deck and bounding down below.
I also will, I believe that Shelby's going to get stronger as the years pass. And as he learns the pitchers in the American League more, he'll learn to pull more. Some year I think he can hit 15 to 20 home runs.
Hernandez, that's interesting right there. Through June, didn't give up a homer. And then from July on, all 9 that he yielded this season.
In only 15 less innings.
Hernandez shows that screwball. He turned that one over. And the count 1 ball and 2 strikes. Interestingly, Hernandez was originally signed by the Phillies. He came up through their minor league system. Then they sent him to the Cubs. He never made it to the big leagues with Philadelphia initially, and then they get him back in the Ruthven deal in May.
Most organizations hate to let a ball player get away and perform for another organization. A lot of times they try and get him back.
1 ball, 2 strikes to count. 3-1 Baltimore. 1 out. Bottom of the 5th inning. Screwball fouled away.
Hernandez was in more games than any left-hander in the majors. 74, as Al mentioned. The only right-handers who pitched in more games this season were Bill Campbell and a fellow named Tekulve.
That's funny. I would think that Quisenberry would have been in there with all those saves that he had.
Dan wound up with 45 saves this year, and that's strike 3. And Shelby doesn't like the call.
He may not like the call, but that was one lovely pitch. He was tied up. Watch this.
Had him handcuffed. There's no doubt about it. Inside part of the plate.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful pitch.
Claude Osteen will go to the mound. Dan Ford coming up as Osteen, the former Dodger left-hander, the pitching coach and part of what they call the Gang of Four, so named by Philadelphia writer Bill Conlin earlier this year. In terms of how the Phillies are guided, as you look at Larry Anderson, who was acquired during the season, warming up in the bullpen. But Owens relies on his coaches, Bobby Wine and Dave Bristol, who has a lot of prior managerial experience, and Claude Osteen, Darren Johnson, Mike Ryan. There on the left, of course, is Al Holland. It's much too early for him. Mike Ryan, bullpen coach, also in the picture there. Holland, who saved last night's game. 3-1 Baltimore. Danny Ford at the plate with 2 down. Fouled away, out of play. 0-1 the count.
Well, in starting Dan Ford against a right-hander, it now turns out that Altobelli saved a ball player.
Really does, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Dan's up there against the left-hander. If Jimmy Dwyer were in the ball game, Dan would be coming out of the dugout pinch hitting for him.
Two down. Dempsey at second base. Danny Ford in the helmet. I hope it sounded like
the helmet. And thank God for batting helmets. We faced this situation 2 years ago when Goose Gossage struck Ron Say in a very similar manner. Just pitch got away, obviously, from Hernandez, who immediately sprinted toward the plate, realizing what had happened. Ford has been beleaguered with bad luck in the late going of this season.
Well, that's Ralph Chalvon, the longtime trainer, and Cal Ripken, the third base coach. It sounded like it hit the helmet. It sounded like it made contact with plastic from here anyway.
Well, we can just give our prayers for the fact that that helmet was there, because once it wasn't. The story of the batting helmet we told you during the World Series 2 years ago. That's the helmet. It began really in 1947 in a game in Columbus, Ohio. Look at this terrible scene again when a pitcher named Jim Kirk struck the doty, gritty little Don Zimmer in the head, and they had to put a plate in Don's head. Later, Zimmer would be hit again by a man named Jeffcoat, but Mr. Branch Rickey, as they patch up the eye right there, there's apparently some blood.
He wears glasses, and of course they could have shattered upon impact.
I think he wants to stay in this game.
It looks like he does. It looks like he's telling Joe Altobelli that he can stay in there.
Just to fill out the story, Earl, it's a story you're intimately familiar with. Originally, many batters didn't even want the helmets, and it was optional. But now, that helmet is there.
Another look, and of course, as I say, Danny wears glasses, so as the pitch comes in, it may have made contact with the metal frame. Let's see. Difficult to tell exactly where it hit. Looked like the side of the bill, perhaps.
Remember, Earl, when you were in the Southern League, New Orleans, Nashville, wasn't it? And
New Orleans, and Branch Rickey started the helmets in professional baseball, and all the Pittsburgh affiliates, including the Major League Club, wore the helmets not only offensively but defensively. And when the helmet first came into the Major Leagues, there was a grandfather rule. The people that were there didn't have to wear the helmet by choice, only if they chose to. And there were many players that chose not to wear the helmet, but just a small liner. That small liner would never saved injury there.
Well, the glasses did not shatter. He puts them back on. He acknowledges to the crowd that he's okay, and they respond in kind. Hernandez, with first base open, probably just trying to move him back a little bit. Danny crowds the plate, of course.
The glasses flew one way, and of course, we didn't carry through on the picture, but Hernandez moved quickly up to the plate, filled with a very deep concern for the pitch that got away.
And it knocked the helmet 3 feet the other way. Well, it's good to see Dan Ford up.
Well, Ford is at first base, and still at second is Dempsey, and the eighth man to come up in the inning is Cal Ripken, who has flied to right and flied to center. Ripken in the 2 games is now 1 for 6. Baltimore leading 3-1, bottom of the 5th.
And with Cal Ripken and Eddie Murray coming up, this is the first chance to break one of these ball games wide open.
Hernandez, by the way, is due to lead off in the 6th inning. So that's why Anderson was up.
How much does what happened to Hernandez affect him now, do you think?
It's up to the individual, but I'll tell you this, Howard, if I was on the mound, it would affect me.
You can't get that kind of thing out of your mind.
Sometimes it's really tough.
2 balls, no strikes to count. Dempsey at second. Ford is first.
There was a pitcher at California named Tatum who hit Paul Blair in the eye one time and never was effective afterwards.
Ken Tatum, yeah. 2-1 the count.
Wasn't one of the reasons that Kevin, although psychology was involved, one of the reasons Kevin's so quit was fear of hitting people.
I believe you're right.
2-1 pitch. Ball 3, and the count 3-1.
There's probably more instances that don't come to mind right off.
Well, Steve Blass is another fellow. All of a sudden, Blass just lost it overnight, and there are a million reasons, I guess. I don't think Steve even knows to this day. But maybe that was one of them. Three balls and 1 strike to count on Ripken.
Now we can see Ripken's stance here. Back in the box, almost out of the box, off the plate. He's got to quit swinging his pitches on the outside half of the plate.
Little looper foul. And the count 3-2.
He can cover the strike zone, but if it's 3 or 4 inches outside, and it looks like that's what they're doing with him, and he's chasing them, he's not going to be able to get any good wood on the ball.
Full count, so the runners will go with a pitch. Dempsey from second and Ford from first. And Ripken nubs it foul, so the runners come back, nubbing it off his foot. 3-2 on Cal with Murray on deck, the 8th man to bat here in the inning.
That was a good ball, good pitch by Hernandez. That ball was sinking. Tough pitch to hit.
Well, that's the science of pitching. He had been on the outside half of the plate and then tried to get under his hands with a sinking fastball.
Sinkers and screwballs. His staple. As the 3-2 pitch is outside for ball 4. So Eddie Murray comes up with the bases loaded.
Now Murray comes up in a different situation, Earl. They're not going to be booing him now, and some of the pressure upon him has been alleviated. He's ahead, Look at that graphic. He's a great player. There's no question about it. He doesn't have to worry about his failures in the 79 series now. He doesn't have to worry about the ball he dropped to give the one run to the Phillies that they have in this game. He can be a more relaxed hitter, and maybe he will burst out, show his real ability.
One more thing, Howard, is Hernandez has to throw him a strike or walk in a run.
Exactly.
1-0 the count. The walk to Cal Ripken was the first walk not only of the game, but of the series. So 1 ball, no strikes the count. Eddie Murray at the plate. Murray is 1 for 6 in the series. He has flied to center and grounded to third. And he pops it up into center field. Gross says, "I'll take it." And does. So 9 men come up in the inning. The Orioles get 3 thanks to the bottom of the order. And at the end of 5, it's Baltimore 3, Philadelphia 1. John Shelby stays in the game. He pinch hit for Bunbury and takes Al's spot in the 5th inning. And with Boddicker on the mound, he's taking some extra warm-ups here. Danny Ford took an extra moment or two in the dugout and has just gone out to right field. As you look at Von Hayes, who will bat here for Hernandez. So Hernandez comes in and works 2/3 of an inning, and Anderson has been warming up in the Philadelphia bullpen. So it's Von Hayes, Joe Morgan, and Pete Rose.
Well, let's see what the long rest does, if anything, to Boddicker, because through 5 innings, Boddicker had thrown 59 pitches, 39 of them for strikes.
3-1 Baltimore. There's Ford. Danny still wiping the area in which the contact was made as Hayes settles in. Vaughn acquired from Cleveland for 5 players in the offseason, including Manny Trio and the brilliant young shortstop Julio Franco. Chopper foul. It's funny, when the Phillies left spring training, they figured they had a solid everyday outfield. It was going to be Matthews in left, and the veteran Maddox in center, and the newcomer Hayes in right. And all of a sudden, here they are in the series. Matthews has played in both games, but he's been basically platooned as Hayes swings and misses. They're platooning in center now with Gross and Maddox. They're platooning in right with Liscano and LaFay. And Hayes not even in the platoon picture at the moment. But as we mentioned last night, those who see this club every day say it's just a matter of time, and Hayes will be in the lineup every day.
He certainly looked like a real good ball player against the Baltimore Orioles last year. He drove in 18 runs against us. And when I saw Tippy Martinez before the game, he got him out last night. He said, "I finally got that man out, Earl."
2 balls, 2 strikes the count. Boddicker has allowed just 1 hit, the single by Morgan, and that was an infield hit, and down goes Hayes. So that's 5 strikeouts for Mike Boddicker. That might have been the Fox, Earl.
That definitely was, and a good motion. They just can't hold up on that pitch, and it tails away from a left-handed hitter.
The combination fork-ball change. As we mentioned before, they get the name, a combination of forkball and fish, because not only the Oriole pitchers, a lot of pitchers call the change-up the fish, which is short for dead fish, because it comes up like a dead fish. Morgan takes low, ball 1. Bluffs a bunt to draw Cruz in, and the count 1 ball and 1 strike.
Satch Page once said, "Never look back." Joe Morgan never does. He has the capacity to forget a mistake. He's a professional.
2-1. A look in again from the right field foul pole area. And Joe Morgan, who's out in front, and the count 2 balls and 2 strikes.
This is an interesting young pitcher.
Yes, he is.
But be fair to Charles Hudson. He was moving along beautifully. What undid him in the long run was when Schmidt had no one to throw to at first. That set up the whole inning.
That certainly helped. Yes, it did.
Grounded to the right side. Eddie Murray scooping it up, taking care of him. So 2 down. Hey, with a little bit of luck,
Bonaker's pitching a no-hitter at this point because Morgan has the only hit, that ground ball to the right of Ripken, and had he fielded it cleanly, he would have gotten him in all likelihood. And he's that close to pitching a no-hitter right now. 2 down, and Pete Rose, the batter, struck out in the first and then bunted in the fourth. He was trying to advance Morgan, and Dempsey made a nice play to hold Morgan at second and get Pete. So Rose didn't get the sacrifice. That's right, all line.
Give you an evidence of Bonaker's effectiveness in the late going this year. His last 10 starts, his ERA was 1.34.
That's fantastic.
It's unbelievable.
You don't see too many pitchers make Morgan and Rose look as bad at the plate as Bonaker has so far tonight. Pete reaches for it and grounds it to third. Cruz with that gun throws him out. So Bonaker has allowed 1 hit and a run through 6. We've played 5.5. Baltimore 3, Philadelphia 1 in Game 2.
Don't miss it. Unbeaten Nebraska, the #1 team in the nation, battles the upset-minded Missouri Tigers. ABC's NCAA College Football, Saturday.
John Lowenstein will lead off in the 6th inning. In the 5th inning, he got things started. The Orioles had been dormant through 4. They'd had only 1 base runner, and then all of a sudden, boom. The home run by Lowenstein to the deepest part of the ballpark, dead center field, with Greg Gross running out of room at the wall. And before the inning was over, 9 men had come to the plate. Charles Hudson was gone. The Orioles had scored 3 and lead it 3-1. And Lowenstein will be facing the 3rd Philadelphia pitcher, right-hander Larry Anderson, who has had a spotty career. He's been pitching in professional baseball since 1971. He spent a good part of that time in the minors. This year, he spent most of the season at Portland in the Pacific Coast League. He was 7-8 there. But his ERA was good, 2.05, and he had 22 saves. He was on loan to Portland during the '83 season. And then the Phillies picked him up. He served as a middleman with Reed and Holland, the short man, a strike, and the count is 0-1. Anderson, like so many of the relief pitchers today, pitching out of a stretch with nobody on base. 1-1 on Lowenstein, who's homered and doubled. 2 balls and a strike to count. It's Storm Davis just getting in some work in the Baltimore pen. He does not figure to start, as Altobelli has indicated it'll be Flanagan, Game 3, and then it'll go back to McGregor for the 4th game on Saturday. And if you're wondering about Jim Palmer, yep, he's one of the long men. Hit in the air to left field and curling down the line, and it is foul, just foul.
Just barely sliced foul. Lowenstein thought he had it. He thought he had it in there. Kiss it goodbye. That's the telltale sign that was used before John hit his first home run, or his only home run of this game, in fact. But look at this.
It was fair all the way till the last minute and just hooked foul.
And that's one of the reasons you have umpires down the lines in the World Series and playoffs to make those calls, and Dutch Rennert was right there.
I've seen many a call like that missed during the regular season.
Oh, yeah. Well, Rennert's about 40 feet away from it. In the regular season, you're about 180. Big difference. Hit on a hop to Rose, who stays with it, shovels to Anderson in time to get him. So 1 away. And it will bring up Dower. We were talking about Palmer in the bullpen. As you look again, a little squibber that had a lot of top spin on it, and Pete able to stay with it after he got momentarily handcuffed. Jim Palmer, if you call his house, there's an answering machine. It says, "Hi, this is Jim Palmer. I'm not home. If you need me in an emergency, you can call the ballpark." And here's the number of the ballpark. And then when you get them, ask for the bullpen. That's extension 75.
That's like Marv Fleming. when he used to be with the Pack and then with the Dolphins, the tight end. Had an answering service.
0-2 the count here.
There's Jim. And you used to call Fleming, and the service would answer. This is Elrod Hendricks, the one-time pitcher under Earl Weaver.
Yes, he was.
That's outside.
Fleming's message was, you can reach me at the Super Bowl. At a point in time, he had been in more Super Bowls than any other active player.
1 ball, 2 strikes the count. And it's fouled away. Danny Ford will look at Danny, who looks none the worse for wear, and he indicates, as he knows the camera's on him, that everything's okay. That's good to see.
He's a remarkable fellow. Nice scene when he trotted out to right field. Fans giving him the ovation he deserved.
Well, Dower had a hit last time up. He had a couple good cuts on some pitches on the inside half of the plate early at this turn at bat. But there he started chasing the pitch that's outside out of the strike zone again.
1 ball, 2 strikes with 1 out of the bases empty. And a soft liner to De Jesus.
Why do you like Dower so much?
Dower gives you everything you got, Howard. He's a manager's type of ball player. He does the hitting behind the runner, the hitting running, puts his body in front of the bad hop, sure hands. The play that we saw last night when he dove into the runner to catch a bad throw by Todd Cruz. Manager's type of ball player.
And he used to call you what, Earl?
Took him 3 years to learn to call me Skip or Earl. He called me Coach when he came out of college.
Grounded to third, and Mike Schmidt throws him out. So that's an easy inning as the Orioles go out 1-2-3. Facing Larry Anderson. And we'll go to the 7th in game 2. Baltimore 3 and Philadelphia 1.
Intelligent.
Yes, he is smart, but he couldn't do what he does if he weren't.
ABC's World News Tonight with Peter Jennings. The difference can be distinguished.
Okay. Number 1 ranked Nebraska taking on Missouri. 3:30 Eastern time. College football will follow game 4 of the World Series on Saturday.
Third baseman.
And it begins at 3:30 Eastern time, 12:30 on the coast. Bowie Kuhn, the departing commissioner of baseball.
Taking off some weight. Looks very good indeed.
He does. Spent a good part of the summer with you, didn't he, in the Hamptons?
Mm-hmm.
Seventh inning as Mike Schmidt leads off by taking a strike. 0-1. Schmidt, LeFay, and then Matthews. Boddicker. A 1-hit shutout through 6. 1-1.
This is a big inning for him. 226, lowest in the major leagues on grass fields this season. 2 games in this series. Phillies have batted 120. No, that's all well and good. The game's played between the white lines, and Schmidt is a great hitter.
Foul ball. 1 ball and 2 strikes on Mike Schmidt. Phillies last night had 5 hits, 3 singles and the 2 homers by Morgan and Maddox. And tonight, just that infield single by Morgan. Their run unearned. It's 3-1 Baltimore as they try to square the series.
Yet the Phillies are still up 1 game to nothing with a 120 team batting average.
Well, the Phillies have been a resourceful team this season. A team that wins a pennant with a collective batting average of .249. We talked about the adversity they've been through last night, the change of managers. It's not at all the team that they thought they would field when they left spring training. Foul back. So they have adjusted during the course of the season, and right now 3 victories away from a world title.
And the fellow that's at bat gave him 40 home runs, and that's going to win you quite a few ball games.
And 109 runs batted in.
And he is almost desperate to bust out. I ran into him quite by chance. He was shopping with his wife today.
Hits it in the air to right field. And Danny Ford will wait for it to come down, which it always does. 1 away. It'll bring up LeFay. The Phillies resourceful in the sense
The batting average was low, but when you look at runs scored, they were third in the league, ninth in team batting average. So what it tells you is they normally got the hits when they needed them.
Exactly, and they know how to win. There's something about this group of players.
Strike to LeFay. There's John Denny, last night's pitcher, and Kiko Garcia also in that shot. Eddie Murray will make it 3 unassisted in the scorebook. And there are 2 down. Since the error by Murray, Boddicker has retired each man he has faced, 10 in all.
Quite a performance.
Thus far.
I know if you're sitting on the bench watching a Boddicker pitch, you want to get up to home plate and just see how the heck he's doing it. But Jim Palmer said he throws harder than a lot of people think. Is that 90-mile-an-hour pitch that we had early in the game we testified to.
And Jim Palmer also said he throws slower than anybody thinks.
1-0 the count on Matthews, and that's a strike. You're right, Earl. He looks like the kind of guy. Pete Rose used to sit in the clubhouse once in a while and watch a pitcher on television and say, "Get me a bat." And he's that kind of a pitcher when you see him on TV. 2-1, but I think people have seen him on TV enough last week and this to understand right now that he's doing something right.
Well, the amazing thing is you think that they'd start timing him now, become more accustomed to him, but the graphic that we showed earlier shows that he gets better as the innings go on.
3-1.
And the graphic you just saw shows how he allows less hits than innings pitched, which is another excellent index to pitching efficiency.
Ripped into right field, and that's the first clean hit tonight for the Phillies. Gary Matthews, who had 1 hit last night, so he has 2 in the series, and it will bring up Gross.
Well, that was one of the very few pitches that Boddicker threw right down the middle. The count was 3-1, and with a 2-run lead, he did not want to walk anybody.
Greg Gross has grounded to second and grounded to short. Would play Gross around to left in a very pronounced fashion. The Orioles pretty close, as you can see there, to straight away.
With the center fielder shading just the least bit to left field.
2-1. It's interesting, though, to watch the alignments, because we see one league all the time. Most teams play most hitters about the same, and then they get into the series, and all of a sudden, on the basis of the scouts, normally, it sometimes changes.
The infield is straight away all the way.
2-2 the count. Gross is a slap hitter, likes to go to left field. He's hit only 6 homers in his career, and 5 of those came in one year, 1977, with Sammy Stewart throwing in the bullpen for Baltimore.
How much credence did you give to scouting reports at World Series?
I studied him, Howard.
Well, he goes to the left side on the ground, and it's Cruz going to Dower just in time. So Gross went according to Hoyle, and the Orioles were lucky to throw out Matthews on the 4th. No runs, a hit, and a man left on. As you look at Matthews, the throw getting there along with Dower just in time to get Gary and end the top half of the 7th inning.
Dower got a late start there. He thought Cruz was going to throw the ball to first base, and at the last minute just beat him into the bag.
So in the inning, no runs, a hit, and a man left on. We'll go to the bottom of the 7th inning in Baltimore. The Orioles on top, 3-1.
Jerry, don't fear. Jogging can be hazardous to your health. We'll tell you why on Eyewitness News tonight at 10:45. Plus a special report on physical fitness and how some celebrities shape up for demanding acting roles.
Get that perfect body this week at 11.
Exhale.
Al Michaels, Howard Cosell, Earl Weaver. We start the bottom of the 7th inning with Rick Dempsey taking a strike. Game 2, Baltimore on top 3-1 as they try to square things. Off day tomorrow, and then Game 3 in Philadelphia Friday night. Dempsey popping it up in foul ground. Rose coming over, but he will run out of room at the back of the dugout. 0-2.
We talked about what Baltimore has done under its mayor, William Donald Schaefer. It's been a remarkable urban renewal process. It's only fair to liken what Philadelphia has been doing in the same vein. I tell you,
Dempsey strikes out swinging.
You go along that Schuylkill River and you see those old restored homes. Gives you a feeling of the roots of this nation. It's a beautiful place and a beautiful feeling. You were always good in the double skull.
I'll take you on tomorrow as the hand builds for Boddicker. Great ovation for Mike. Not only for what he's done tonight, but remember, he shut out the White Sox in Game 2, a critical game last week in the playoffs.
Tying a league championship series record, 14 strikeouts.
1-0 the count.
And you don't figure a finesse pitcher is going to get 14 strikeouts.
2-0 now. Howard, the way you analyze cities, I can't wait till next year when I get you out to my hometown, San Francisco, for the All-Star game. Bring your overcoat. It's July, but you'll need it. Or will you be in the Hamptons that night?
Probably.
Rounded down to short, and De Jesus takes care of him.
I'll be judging the pet show.
Yeah, like you did this year. 2 down.
Well, the Baltimore Orioles pitchers didn't start taking batting practice until the World Series began. Joe Altobelli was afraid that someone might get hit with a pitch in batting practice during the playoffs and not be able to perform. But the way Boddicker swung the bat all night long, it looked like he's a pretty good hitter and been taking batting practice all year.
Anderson has retired the 5 men he's faced as Shelby stands in. Shelby struck out in the 5th inning. Pinch hitting for Bumbry, who started the game in center. 0-1 the count.
This Philadelphia team hangs tough. I'll tell you, Anderson's come in. He's done a job. Hernandez collected himself after the terrible incident when the ball got away for him and struck Ford on the batting helmet. But they hang tough.
1-1.
This series is beginning a lot like one we had in 1980 for sustained drama, maybe the best I've ever seen between this Philadelphia team and the Houston Astros.
The playoff series.
Yep. You were with me then.
No, I was doing the other series that year. New York, Kansas City, which the Royals won in 3. I was watching you, though.
Oh, the Brett home run against Gossage. Yeah.
Right.
Without Pine Tar.
Without Pine Tar. I was going to say that, Howard.
2 balls, 2 strikes, the count.
That Pine Tar might have been there and nobody noticed it.
Into the upper deck. The Oriole mascot.
Sitting back and enjoying it now, isn't he?
Not so the Philly fanatic. Foul back again. 2-2 the count. 3 runs, 5 hits, and 1 error for Baltimore. 1 run, 2 hits, and no errors for the Phils. 2 out and the base is empty. Anderson working his last inning here because he's due up 3rd when the Phillies come up in the top of the 8th. Diaz, De Jesus, and then the pitcher's spot. Wrapped foul by Ripken. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Last at bat shot, John Shelby was batting right-handed and must have fouled off 6 or 7 pitches.
Cal Ripken Sr., the third base coach, and of course the father of the Orioles shortstop, and one of the men they very seriously considered as the successor to Earl Weaver. Grounded to the right side, and Morgan goes out on the grass, and off balance doesn't get it. Shelby can fly, and Rose questions the call by Clark.
Joe Morgan went a long way for that ball, and his momentum was carrying him out to the right field foul line and couldn't get a lot on that throw.
Even more than that, didn't he have a little trouble with it when he got to it?
Well, we get to see it right here, Howard. He's got it. But,
up in the heel of the glove.
He had to go so far, he had to throw off balance and didn't get quite as much on the throw as he wanted. Very good call by Al Clark, the first base umpire.
That is the Philly fanatic, of course, minus his normal uniform. I guess he had to take it off in Baltimore. Young Raymond, I'm trying to remember his first name, but his father is football coach down at Delaware.
Yeah, he turns out great teams, too.
We have a run situation here, fellas.
Shelby at first base with 2 down. Here was Danny Ford and what happened the last time. So it's a sheer delight under these circumstances just to see him standing in for his next at-bat.
This takes a little guts, too, believe you me.
Yes, it does, Howard. Best thing to get right back in there, though. Well, the Phillies are thinking run situation and pitched out.
Ronce did and had a big game. Came back after the trip east. Los Angeles and had a big game against the Yankees.
1 ball, 1 strike to count.
Right now, Shelby's going to go the first chance he gets. Anytime he feels like he's got a good jump on the pitcher, he's going to take off and try to steal second base.
I'm not going to ask you if they've changed signs, Earl, but are the signs different than they were when you were here?
Yes, they are.
Can you tell? Okay.
In other words, you want to know if I'm guessing or got some insider information.
You better believe it. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Situation calls for it. If you can get it, try to get it.
All right, is he going here?
Might even have another pitch out. I'd be a little afraid of another pitch out right here.
All right.
Count 1 and 2.
So you would you keep him at first?
I'd let him go if he gets a jump.
Pitch out, you're right, and they keep him at first, and the count is 2 and 2.
I'd have been thrown out, but I definitely have him running right now.
Okay.
He'll go now.
There's Boddicker looking on.
Nicely chiseled features.
He doesn't go, and Ford loops it into right field, and that's a base hit. And Shelby will go to third. So runners at first and third as the Orioles seek insurance with 2 out in the bottom of the 7th.
I'll tell you, look at Dan Ford. Incidentally, his best power is to right center.
He's got good power to right field. He stayed right in there, Howard. He didn't give an inch.
That's right.
The ball wasn't hit real good, but it takes a lot of nerve to walk back up there, just like you mentioned before. And what we have right here now is Cal Ripken coming to a plate in a situation where they have to give him a pretty good pitch or face Eddie Murray again with the bases loaded.
Interestingly, in the 2 games thus far, the Birds have gotten virtually nothing from Ripken and Murray, their big hitters. A single, fighting off an inside pitch, grounded single by Ripken last night, and Murray with that single to left field. And that's all.
There's a fake move to third. They throw to first and almost get him, and Rose is mad again at Al Clark. That's a play. You see that a lot. That fake to third, throw to first. You almost never see it work. This is about as close as they'll come.
Well, he had Dan going the wrong way.
And he executed it, did Anderson, perfectly. So just a tad high as Rose comes down on the shoulder and the hand gets in. Grounded to the right side. That's through for a base hit. Shelby scores. Ford is going to third as the ball dies on the grass, and it's 4-1.
2 straight hits off of 2 pretty good pitches. Neither ball was hit hard, but they both found holes. One of them in the outfield and one of them in between the first baseman and the second baseman.
Rose holding the runner at first base, and that opens up the right side of the infield in this situation, and Ripken putting it through.
There's Rose, the pitch on the outside half the plate. Cal tried to go with it, and he got it in the hole. As I said, the ball wasn't hit hard, and that allowed Dan Ford, who we see rounding second, a chance to go to third.
Murray fouls it back. And the count 0-1. Phillies scored first in the fourth, but Baltimore 3 in the fifth, 1 here in the seventh, and it's up and away. 1 ball and 1 strike on Eddie Murray with Ford, the runner, at third. Ripken in first. All this coming with 2 down. Anderson had retired the 5 men he had faced. Then singles by Shelby, the infield hit on a close play at first, the looping single by Ford, and the bouncing single to right by Ripken. So they're not keying off on Anderson, but they produced. 2-1.
Secret of a team's success is for everybody to pitch in. Both the players on the Phillies and the Orioles did that all year.
Grounded down to Morgan, and Eddie Murray leaves a couple of more. So Murray tonight alone has stranded 5, but the Orioles get 1 more, and after 7 lead it 4-1 in Baltimore.
Sunday.
Oh, I'd like to see you.
Mark puts the moves on a deadly dame.
You rang, sir.
Who's too hot to handle.
Hold me.
Hardcastle and McCormick, Sunday at 8.
That's quite a sight from the Goodyear blimp, cruising above Memorial Stadium in Baltimore.
He worried me. He seemed awfully low.
Good zoom lens, though. That's what it is. It's that shot. They're the available pinch hitters for the Phillies, so if you're Owens, you're looking at all right-handed batters. The lefty on the bench tonight was Von Hayes, and he's already been used. He struck out in the 6th inning. Bo Diaz will lead off in the 8th inning and takes a pitch that just misses inside, ball 1.
Joe Altobelli, sitting in the Baltimore bench, knows that all those pinch hitters are right-handed. And it'll be interesting to see if he goes with Tippy Martinez, the fellow that's did the short work for him all year, who's left-handed.
Well, earlier in last inning, he had Stewart up. And there it is again. Good old neighborhood ballpark here in Baltimore. Hilton 54.
Remember the time in a football game? Plane came in here into the seats?
Fortunately, after the game.
Tragically.
Private plane landed in the upper deck about, I guess, about 6 or 7 years ago after an NFL playoff game. 2-1 the count. And the count 2-2. Here's Steve Carlton.
Steve Carlton.
Talking to Tony Perez.
Mr. Wonderful.
Come on, Bo!
Dempsey, that's the last thing an umpire wants to have happen.
Rick doesn't believe it.
And
pitch looked pretty good, didn't it, Earl?
It looked like a good pitch, but I'll tell you, Vargo is mad. He's a senior umpire in the National League, and I think he'll be saying something to Dempsey right now or on the next pitch.
That is a pretty good pitch, though.
He obviously thought it was a touch low, but that pitch looked very good.
And a 3-2 delivery. Fisted foul off to the right. 8th inning, Baltimore on top 4-1 as they try to square the series.
Had Eddie Murray come through any one of his opportunities, this would have been a laugher.
Yes, it would have.
That's a looper to the right side and in for a base hit. So keep it in mind. They don't get the call on the 2-2 pitch, and the next thing you know, instead of going back to the bench, he's at first base.
And the next thing you know, this Philadelphia team is, as you said, resourceful. They find ways to win.
Meanwhile, they will go to the bench here. Juan Samuel, who spent most of the season at Portland, and the Phillies regard him as their second baseman of the future. Brilliant young player. Comes in to pinch run for Diaz, and that means we'll see Ozzie Virgil go back to the plate in the bottom of the inning. So Samuel, the heir apparent to Joe Morgan, runs for Diaz with De Jesus at the plate.
Two of the 3 hits that the Phillies have at this time came when the count was 3-1 and 3-2, and Mike Boddicker had to go down the middle with a fastball.
De Jesus, the number 8 hitter. So you have the pitcher spot next. As De Jesus grounds it to the hole, backhanded by Ripken. He goes to Dower 1, turns it over, not in time. He gets the lead runner, though, as he erases some well. And with 1 out, they'll go to the bench, and it will be Tony Perez to pinch hit.
It was a nice play by Ripken. We'll see it right here. He timed that ball. When he first started playing shortstop, he tried to get in front of this ball. He took it on the right hop, poised himself, gave a good throw to Dower, and now there's 1 out and a man on first base.
A look at Ripken, who started last season, of course, at third, and then Earl moved him over to short. And here is Tony Perez. A great gentleman, a man who they thought might retire, and a man who didn't figure to wind up in the National League because he'd been the DH at Boston, and then it looked like he was gone. And Rose, among others, convinced Paul Owens and Bill Giles that he'd be a good acquisition for him, and he paid off for them this season.
He certainly did.
Great type of player to have on a ball club. Tony inspires other people and says the right things at the right time. He's the type of person who can go around and put his arm around you to pick you up when you're in a slump.
1-0 the count.
Intangibles.
Well, you talk about the chemistry the Reds had in those years. He was part of the machine, of course, with Rose and Morgan and Tony Perez and people like that under Sparky Anderson. And you can see part of the reason the team had the success it did.
Having a big affair, by the way, October 22nd for Johnny Bench. Bob Hope, among many others involved, and former President Ford.
Perez is a high chopper to Dower. He goes to Ripken and back to Murray, and it's a double play. So the leadoff single after the disputed call on the pitch, but it does no damage. Chopper, and they make it look very easy. Dower over to Ripken and to Murray. And so at the end of 7.5, it remains in game number 2, the Baltimore Orioles 4 and the Philadelphia Phillies 1. Standard fare here to get the crowd excited. Wild Bill Hagee. He's been doing that since, I guess, 1979 or always when he began that.
Yes,
body language and the spelling out of the letters Orioles. New battery. Ron Reed is the pitcher. Ozzie Virgil is the catcher. Ron Reed at the age of 40, and there's Virgil, whose dad, of course, Ozzie Sr., former infielder with several teams and currently the third base coach with the San Diego Padres. Bottom of the 8th inning. John Lowenstein to lead things off. It's 4-1 Baltimore as Reed starts him with a strike. 0-1. Hit to the left side and through for a base hit. So Lowenstein with 3/4 of the cycle, a double, a home run, and now a single here in the 8th inning. That's hit number 9 for the Orioles.
Lowenstein swinging the bat with a lot of confidence. Went right with the pitch. He got a pitch on the outside half of the plate and drilled him into left field.
By the way, I hear your ex-second baseman, Davy Johnson, may be the manager of the Mets.
That's what it's reported, Howard, and I think they're supposed to announce it tomorrow.
There is the big hero in the clinching game Saturday, Tito Landrum, who had been in the minors in the Cardinal chain much of the season. He comes in the pinch run. He hit the home run at Comiskey into the upper deck on Saturday that turned out to be the winning run in the 10-inning 3-0 victory. Landrum running for Lowenstein. Dower 1 for 3 at the plate. Bunting foul. 0-1.
You don't need to give me that look, Howard. I would be bunting in this situation. I'd be going after that 5th run, yes. Keeps the grand slam from beating you.
Reggie Jackson shaking his head no.
Well, if Reggie Jackson was the hitter, I wouldn't be, but Rich Howard is the hitter.
0-1 the count. Smith ready to charge in from third. a pitch that was inside, and again it's fouled away. 0-2. So Reed coming right in on his hands, and Landrum will go back to first base. Trying to push it. Actually trying to get out of the way.
Sacrifice all but eliminated with 2 strikes, so we might see a hit-and-run play here.
John Lowenstein. And remember, he's the man that has turned in the defensive gem of the series last night. 0-2 the count. Right now, Mr. Lowenstein, you start to think about a series MVP, and the fellow has a car for winning it. Steiner has a couple of hubcaps already.
Yes, he does, but it's mighty early.
It is.
Yeah, it's much too early to get into that.
He's still bunting with 2 strikes, and that's strike 3. So Dower can't lay one down.
Well, I was all but wrong about the sacrifice being eliminated.
4th inning, Morgan single, stole second. Murray made an error. LaFay hit a sac fly to make it 1-0. But then the 5th inning, Lowenstein started it with a homer. The big blow was Dempsey's 2-run double, or 1-run double that sent a man to third Cruz, and then Boddicker hit the sacrifice fly to score him. Then with 2 out in the 7th inning, Shelby, Ford, and Ripken with successive singles, 4-1. Cruz the batter. 1 for 3, a bunt single.
Good chance Landrum might be running right now.
A strike. He's not taking much of a lead. 0-1 the count. Landrum was the fellow they picked up when they sent Floyd Rayford from Rochester to St. Louis at a time when the Cardinals wanted a right-handed batting infielder. Very short lead for Landrum. Token throw over to first.
It is a short lead if he has thoughts of stealing the base.
And he goes. Gets a pretty good jump. It's swung on and missed, and the throw sails away from De Jesus. So he didn't stretch it out very much, but Landrum was able to get a very good jump on Reed, who, of course, at 6'6", takes a little bit of time to deliver to the plate.
Yes, he does, and a lot of runners would like, some of them like to shorten up their lead and try to get that extra 2 steps, try to get the pitcher to forget about him.
No balls, 2 strikes to count. 1 away, Landrum at second. Popped up. Rose is in foul ground, calling. 2 away. So we'll see Dempsey, and looking ahead now to the top of the 9th inning when the Phillies come up. We'll see the top of the order: Morgan, Rose, and then Schmidt. Dempsey with a double. Interesting, we talked about the 6, 7, 8, and 9 spots. They were the men primarily responsible for the rally in the 5th inning. And they will walk Dempsey intentionally here. First base is open, and they figure they might as well go to work on Boddicker. So runners will be at first and second. Outside of that one little flurry, though, in the 5th inning, the bottom of the lineup for Baltimore has done nothing at all. But that one little flurry was enough to make the difference so far tonight. Well, the hand will build as Boddicker comes to the plate. Center field. threat dies in the glove of Greg Rose. So no runs, a hit, 2 left. We'll go to the ninth. Baltimore on top by a score 4-1. We'll be back after this message and a word from your local stations.
World Series highlights tonight at 11.
Eusebio Pedrosa in his 17th title defense takes on Gutsy Jose Cava, the WBA World Featherweight Championship, when ABC's Wide World of Sports returns October 22nd.
Tito Landrum staying in the game, playing left field as we go to the 9th inning in Baltimore. Al Michaels, Howard Cosell, and Earl Weaver at Memorial Stadium, and we'll take the day off tomorrow. And on to Philadelphia Friday. Talk to you at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, 5 o'clock on the West Coast for Game 3, Flanagan against Carlton. So it's Morgan, Rose, and Schmidt facing Boddicker, who has faced 3 men over the minimum. He has allowed 3 hits. He hasn't walked a man, and he has struck out 5. As the Orioles try to square the series at a game apiece. A strike. You know, there's a little Walter Mitty in all of us. What goes through this fella's mind right now? Kid out of rural Iowa, starts the season in the minors. Morgan hits a fly ball to center, and now that kid from rural Iowa, as Shelby makes the catch, is 2 outs away from winning the 2nd game of the World Series after pitching a shutout in the playoffs.
What goes through his mind right now? I got to get these guys out. I got to get these guys out. I got to get these guys out. That's all that's on his mind right now.
That's what he should be thinking, too, Howard. And he told me yesterday that he wasn't going to get nervous, or at least he hadn't up to that point, and certainly has looked tonight like he wasn't nervous.
This is a team you can't make a pitching mistake against, he said. He's absolutely right.
Pete Rose takes a strike. But it's a night you know that down the line he'll sit back and savor with relish. Chopper. Boddicker over to Murray. So 2 down. And were it not for Ripken juggling the grounder by Morgan, Boddicker would be on the verge of a 2nd straight postseason shutout. Here's Smith.
There's no question this is a remarkable young pitcher.
It's been 19. That was the last year a pitcher threw, a rookie pitcher threw a 3-hitter in a World Series game. And he's 1 out away from accomplishing that right now with Mike Schmidt at the plate. And Schmidt's going to lay one down. He does that from time to time. It's a smart move. A home run means nothing. You need a base runner.
Well, that's exactly right, Al. The home fans are booing, but it's a team player that'll do that. Try to get on for the next fella until you get that tie and run up at home plate and then swing away.
And with Cruz playing so deep at third, Schmidt figures, why not? If I can just put it on the ground, I'm there. You can see he's come in a couple of steps now. He was almost back on the outfield grass. No balls and a strike. 2 outs, no one on. Foul ball. 0-2.
And the final relief for Pat Santarone.
Yes, that's right.
The groundskeeper. He made this field not only playable, but we didn't see the slipping and sliding that we thought we might.
The crowd rising as one. They want Boddicker to end it with a flourish. With a strikeout if he can. And he does.
Pitched an outstanding game and wound it up throwing that fastball exactly where he wanted, up and out of the strike zone. What a performance.
He starts the season in Rochester in the International League and plays in front of crowds of 3 and 4 and 5,000. And 6 months later, he's in Baltimore.
And so, exactly the kind of series we expected and predicted is coming to pass. Look at that for a reaction shot. What relief. This is going to be a tough, tight, and probably 7-game series. We'll be right back.